The Midlands Today Show with Will Faulkner.
Midlands 103.
Now, the spectre of suicide is something that too many families live with here in the Midlands, and when it impacts upon your life, everybody deals with it in a different way. For Philomena Keyes, at the age of 80, it led her to the recording studio for the very first time, and the result is a new single called Beautiful Isle of Somewhere, recorded with her daughter, Trudi Lalor. Ladies, good morning. You're very welcome to the programme.
Good morning, Will.
Now, before we talk about the song, let's talk about the man himself. What was Alan like?
Alan was a lovely person, a very intelligent person, very musical, got lots of talents, a great worker when he was able to work. He was a plasterer by trade. Mm-hmm. Everything went well, and he was absolutely a lovable person, a little go-by, as we'll call them, when he was young.
Right.
But he was the star of Mount Rat. All the kids would be running. Whatever Alan said went, and whatever Alan done, we have to do. And just a lovely person. It probably sounds as if I'm saying that because of his mother, but it is true.
And was he a happy person?
He was happy for about, till he was about 23 years ago. He suddenly had a breakdown. We don't know what caused it. We just don't know until one night he ran out of the house and ran through gardens and fields, and we couldn't find him.
Right.
And we called the guards, of course, and our local priest, who is a great friend of Alan's, Father Lawler. And we went everywhere looking for him. Of course, I was in bits over it. And eventually we were coming down the town and we saw him walking, myself and husband. And he said, don't. He said, I'm not going home. So we said, come on, Alan, come on, there's nothing going to happen to you, love, you know. And got him. And we still wouldn't get in the car or anything, so we left well enough alone not to exaggerate the thing worse. And while we were at home, a lady came to the door and she had found his jacket lying in her back garden where he had been going through all the fields at the back. So we went out and found him eventually. I can't remember who it was, brought him home. He was on the street. And from then on, he was going on treatment.
And he was treated for depression, or what was the nature of his illness? Well,
they gave him, I think, something to sort of quieten him down first, like, you know. We'd take him in, and that time it was the old mental hospital. It wasn't the new place. And we took him in and got all the help we could for him, like, you know. So I just couldn't believe it had happened. But then
and was he able to explain and articulate how he was feeling?
I think a lot of the time he thought he didn't know what happened it or what caused it. It was like as if he just flipped, you know. And he had come back from Dublin, where he had a minor bit of a crash when he was working up there on his motorbike. But we were told that had no impact on it, hadn't done any damage to him or anything like that, you know. But he was always a little bit hyped. He always had to be into something and doing things, you know. And I think that was it. He just went from that. He went from depression to manic depression, or bipolar as they call it now, and went on then to the illness that he had. What do you call it?
Well, I suppose long-term depression, really.
The upper limit of mental illness.
Yeah.
I forget the word now.
And long-term depression can lead to psychotic episodes. And
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
well,
yes,
because as Mammy said, you know, a very, very creative person, very musical. He would have, in any of our family gatherings, and there's 11 children altogether, he would be the one to take out the guitar and start the sing-song. So I suppose I'm the youngest of the family, and looking at, as I said, such a wonderful, beautiful, creative human being, going from such a level of social active, being so active with the community and meeting everybody and wanting to be in the middle of everything, to slowly but surely being very, very antisocial, not wanting to have sing-songs. And when he would go to the local pub, which he used to always meet so many of his friends who would always come in and have a jamming session, he just went in when it was quiet nights, you know, Monday night, Tuesday night, and his songs tended to be very, very more downbeat, you know, depressing.
Could the doctors explain why the mind would deteriorate like that and why somebody would withdraw in that way?
No, I mean, we personally, I suppose, as a family, we have our doubts. I personally feel after the motorbike accident, he had no helmet on, and I really believe he got head injuries. Obviously, they would say some of the doctors said no, that's not it. You know, he was prone to being depressed from an early age, and I suppose circumstances and just life tended to kind of. He hated being depressed. This is something we want to really put across. People who are depressed, they know they're depressed. They know they're not happy and not the way society wants them to be. So for somebody to know that is twice as hard, because it's almost like a lot of people looking at somebody who's depressed say, oh sure, they don't even know they are, like, you know, should kind of dismiss them from society. And this is what really, really hurt Alan, and I think he got deeper and deeper into depression from that. It was society's way of treating him as well, you know.
But did the doctors identify that there was a risk of him committing suicide?
Well, they did, and the word I couldn't think of a while ago was schizophrenia. He was schizophrenic at the end, yeah. And no, I don't know. He was going and coming, and every week he'd have to go over to the Bridge Centre in Portlaoise to get this injection. And he wasn't actually violent. No, not violent in the least. Quite docile, a man, a lovely man. He wouldn't be no way hitting people or children or anything. And he just was a lovely person, I think. With all this medication, I sometimes wonder, a few people have agreed with me, I think they're over-medicating these kind of people. Now, when he was taken in the last time into the hospital in Portlaoise, which is the new building attached to the County General Hospital, he wasn't well the day we took him over. He was sort of hearing voices, which is part of schizophrenia. And we took him over, and they put him into bed and gave him something. And we went over the next morning to see him, and he was totally knocked out. And for 3 days, he was like that. We'd gone, no matter how many times we went, he was asleep. Now, to me, I couldn't understand why he needed that much medication. And I actually told the doctor in charge that no way, in case we were thinking about would I allow him to have electric shock treatment. I think it's brutal and cruel. So it wouldn't have done any good anyway.
It's something my own mum is going through at the moment, actually.
Is she? Is she going through that shock treatment? Yeah. Is she really? And
not showing any major sign of improvement either at the moment.
No, it's not. It's a failure. Yeah, it's
difficult. Yeah.
Sorry to say that, Will, but anyway, for 3 whole days he was there lying just like a corpse, and I couldn't see the reason why he needed all that medication when he hadn't been violent. And I really think his weight had gone up to over 20 stone, so he couldn't hold the guitar. He would get tired after a few minutes talking or trying to walk.
And heretofore, would he have been active, and would he have been healthy?
Absolutely,
into everything.
Very good, very good-looking guy, and as I said, was the centre of every gathering, and people were just drawn to him. He was very charismatic and a lovely, lovely human being. And it's just terrible when depression took over, and then the medication. And I mean, he said he used to just, every time I'd meet him, I'd say, Alan, you're looking great. I'm not. He says, I'm putting up so much weight, and I'm walking every day, and I can't lose the weight. And this was really, really getting him down as well. And I know that I was saying to him, look, are you taking the medication, Alan? You're not fooling the doctors or anything. Oh no, he said, sure, they stand and look at me swallowing the tablets. He said, I'm not even allowed, they don't trust me to take them when I go home. But he didn't want to live. Well, I suppose we just know that. And I mean, it was just horrendous when it eventually came to our doorstep.
He actually had his dinner with me. Sorry, Will. He actually had his dinner with me that day in my house. We used to invite him over for his Sunday dinner, and he had his dinner that day, the day he died.
And I'm sure you've replayed that again and again, have you?
We were going to a little family party. He was invited but wouldn't come, and within 2 hours he was dead. So he had it planned, obviously, to go. Got the driver to take him down where the railway track was, and he said it was a shortcut going out to see his sister, but we got the news that evening. Yeah.
Who told you?
It had come on the radio first that the trains were held up.
Right.
And then some of the family rang, said, Ma'am, did you hear the news? Is there anything? And when I heard a man on the railway, I said, good Lord, because he had tried it before in Dublin, back some years previous. And it was one of those electric trains, or whatever you call them. And he had rolled down for the train to catch him, but the driver had seen him coming when he saw him and was able to brake straight away, and his life was saved that time.
But unfortunately, he succeeded
He
the second time.
succeeded at
Yeah.
last, yeah.
The only comfort that we have, Will, obviously, is doing something positive from all this negative.
Yeah.
And certainly my heart, we had the inquest, which was absolutely horrendous. And it was given on Valentine's Day, which was very difficult for the family.
Yeah.
And the train driver was there. And I mean, it was so painful, but I wanted to make sure that that train driver knew that none of our family blamed him. And because this particular train driver was, you know, is traumatised and is going through therapy himself. And, you know, we'd hate anybody who's in to feel almost responsible, but we know that Alan wanted to go. He's happy now. We know he's happy now. And he wasn't happy here. So we feel that through all this difficult period of Mam, which is very difficult and very brave of her, that hopefully something positive will come out of this terrible situation, and that people who are feeling a little bit depressed, not to be afraid to go for talk therapy. You know, if they don't want to go down the medication route, let them go to doctors, get recommended to a really, really good psychotherapist who could probably deal with these issues, because there is probably stuff going back to Alan's early life that is maybe could have been a cause. I'm not saying the full cause, but could have attributed to him being depressed in later years. So that's all we would say to anybody feeling that little bit down. It's only a temporary thing for a lot of people. Don't be afraid of it. Go get that help. Seek the right advice and you'll be fine. You know, don't let it spiral out of control like it did with Alan and ended up leaving us all heartbroken.
You recorded the song then, and it was your first time in a recording studio, Philomena.
My first time in a
Even though
recording.
you've been around music all your life.
I know, yeah. Well, at that time we sang for pleasure. It wasn't for money. We sang at operettas and concerts and dances and everything. Well, we did get paid a little, but the music came first. But this was a favourite song of mine from the time I was a young one. And we've sang it at Alan's graveside, you see. He used to join in with us when we'd be having bits of parties at home. So we thought it was apt to sing it at his graveside. And then, of course, it went on from there. People wanted to hear it. And then Amnesty International got involved to help other people who would have the same problems.
Tell us a little bit about the Amnesty campaign.
Amnesty International, amnesty.ie, are working at the moment, Will, on promoting mental health awareness. They're at the moment going with this big campaign all over Ireland to help break down the walls of prejudice against mental health issues and people been mislabelled, you know. So it's very, very important, I suppose, for them to get the message across. So there was a lady from the Portlaoise Amnesty at Alan's funeral, and she was blown away by the duet that Mammy and I had done at Alan's graveside. And I suppose all our family are very musical. I have a sister that plays guitar and sings as well. I mean, all our family are surrounded by music. So, I mean, it was very, very touching and moving. And at the end of it, you know, people were saying it would be such a lovely thing for you to someday record it. So I was recording a new album anyway at the time. I was in the middle of it, and I asked Mammy would she come in and do the duet with me. So Amnesty got to hear that this song then was actually recorded, and they asked would we lend them the song to use to help promote their mental health campaign. So we're obviously, you know, very, very happy that something positive is hopefully going to come out of that. It's already up on YouTube and they're receiving over 100 hits every day. So it's massive publicity for their mental health campaign as well. And we're really delighted. Anybody that wants to download the song can just go onto amnesty.ie, where for only €2 they can download it onto their iTunes or iPhone. And it's a donation to Amnesty, who are doing fantastic work for their mental health campaign.
Did you enjoy recording with Trudi?
I did. I had to keep my eye on her in case she'd steal my verse.
Well, your good friend Fran Curry, Will, who said to say hello to you. Fran produced our record.
Oh, great.
And
how is Fran?
Fran is great and said to say hello, and to all his listeners. He loved when he was up here at Midlands 103. But on the day when Mammy came in, they were all very nervous. We had an engineer, producers, everyone was around, and they were all very nervous when Mammy came in, and they said, you know, she hasn't been here before, so they were showing her how to do everything. And they just said, if you could sing it, Phil. And you know,
the one thing they couldn't do.
we do it 2 or 3 times, and so Mammy sang it once, and apparently in the first take she had it.
Well, you see, when you're good, you're good.
That's it now. So, I mean, we were delighted with her, and she was fantastic.
No praise at all.
Stop it, don't
So
be
she was
modest.
great.
Well, it's called The Beautiful Isle of Somewhere. Trudi Lalor, Philomena Keyes, thank you both
Thank you,
very
Will,
much.
Thank you so
very
much, Will.